If you know the value of a good theology or ministry conference, then you know there are a lot to choose from each year.
And not all conferences are created equal. Let us point you to something solid, something worth attending.
The For the Church Conference is going down on September 26th and 27th in Kansas City, Missouri. The theme for this year is For the Nations, and the speakers include Jason K. Allen, H.B. Charles Jr., Matt Carter, J.D. Greear, Tony Merida, and Jared C. Wilson.
For the Church is a vital part of Midwestern Seminary and Spurgeon College's aim to train ministry leaders for the magnification of God through the building of the local church. This is the reason For the Church exists.
To see details and to register and to get a bunch more information about what's happening at Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, head over to mbts.edu/docanddevo. That's right. We've got our own landing page there for this. Go to mbts.edu/docanddevo. Dang, bro, we're starting. You didn't even add check. Just hit the button.
You're doing your little thing.
Welcome to Doctrine and Devotion, a podcast that explores Christian faith and practice from a Reformed Baptist perspective. My name is Joe Thorne. I'm the lead pastor of Redeemer Fellowship in St. Charles, Illinois.
And I'm Jimmy Fowler, executive pastor at Redeemer Fellowship.
Guess what?
What?
I got pulled over by a cop in Campton Hills with multiple infractions.
So multiple would be, okay, I'm going to assume.
Okay.
Speeding?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
You're not going to guess the infractions.
No seatbelt?
He didn't list that.
Okay. So you didn't have it on?
Huh?
So you know for sure you didn't have it on?
I just said he didn't cite me for...
But you didn't have it on?
I didn't have it on,
Okay,
no.
all right.
No.
Let's see. Car registration?
Nope. Up to date.
Up to date.
Up
Man.
there. Yeah.
Bumper? Or
Nope.
not bumper, like the light?
Nope, everything's good.
Then what is it?
Because, okay, so I'm at this intersection, and there's two cars in front of me. So, like, I'm right there. It's a light. I want to turn right because I want to go to the gas station. And
All right, so 64 in Burlington.
That's exactly where I'm at.
Yep.
So there's a turning lane on the left-hand side that goes to the left. I'm in the lane that can go straight, or you can make a right once you get to the intersection.
So you went on the curb.
I went onto the shoulder to go around the people to make a right to go to the gas station to get my breakfast chicken nuggets. Anyway, now I'll be honest.
Wait.
Oh, yeah.
Breakfast chicken nuggets?
Gas station.
From that gas station?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty awesome. Ooh, got to get that protein in the morning. It's good for you.
That sounds disgusting.
Oh, it's so good. Get some barbecue sauce. Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with you?
It's good.
It is not.
Oh, it's so good. So I'm sitting there, and there are a couple of things. One is I pretty much have. I almost don't need. I always know who's behind me. I always know who's behind me. I just can't. I always look in the rearview mirror.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I was not looking in the rearview mirror
before you break the law. You always look at the rearview mirror.
I'm just always looking anyways. And then when there is a cop, I get really tense because there's a cop behind me. So I'm sitting. And the other thing is, I've been in this situation before where like, I'm going to have to wait for this light. Then I'm going to have to wait for the turn arrows before I can just make my right-hand turn because there's two people in front of me that are going straight. They're not turning right. You can turn right on a red, but just, but I'm not up there to turn. So I'm like, I'm really hungry. And I'm like, I'm just going to go around him. Like lots of people, everybody does it. I'm just going to go around him.
Now, I don't, but go ahead.
But lots of people do. And I frequently
lots
don't.
of wrong people.
I've been, it's definitely wrong. So I was there and I was like, I've been in that situation where I'll just wait, because I'm just the thing. But
you said multiples now. Okay. Before, So we got there. Did you turn left did you actually wait to go into
I didn't even get to the gas station.
Never mind that. Okay. I thought maybe you did a left turn into the one section.
Into where you're not allowed.
Where you're not allowed. I was like, that'd be a twofer.
So I pulled over, and the moment I pulled over and put my blinker on, I see lights behind me, and I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I made the right, pulled over, and I rolled my windows down all the way, just what I do. Take my sunglasses off, get my stuff out. And he walks up with a smile on his face, head to the, kind of looking at the ground, smiling and shaking his head like, you dummy, right in front of me. And so I said, did you catch me doing something stupid? And he goes, yeah, I caught you doing 3 things stupid. I go, what? Oh, really? And he goes, yeah, first of all, you can't go around those cars on the right. It's a solid line. I go, yeah, I know. I do know. He's like, so that's a problem. Then you turned right. I go, you turned right on the red, but you turned right on the red from the shoulder, which you're not allowed to do. So you're passing on the shoulder, you're turning right on the shoulder, and there was something else. I forget what it was.
And you got off with nothing.
Oh, I got nothing. And and he said, people will tell me, like, oh, I thought that was a turning lane. And I'm like, no, I know that's not a turning lane. I know I'm not supposed to do it. I just wanted my chicken nuggets from the gas station.
And then he took pity upon you, a poor man.
I'll tell you what, cops like me now. They used to yank me out of the car back in the 80s, but now they like, wherever I get my 40s, they like me.
50s.
Yeah. And so I'm not yet.
50s.
So it was funny because I'm like, nah, yeah, I'm sorry. I already have it in my hand. He goes, don't worry about it. He's like waving away my documents. And he's like,
man, must be nice.
Oh, man. It was funny. Yeah, because Jen does not get that. Jen gets the ticket every time.
Yeah, but Jen has a certain...
What do you, je ne sais quoi?
A certain look about her.
Oh, there's a look.
There's a look.
Okay.
Like she's a very fine woman.
Okay, yeah. Maybe like fine or just...
You know what
fine.
I mean. Like,
I know.
She's a very nice and attractive woman.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? Once you get past...
Oh, there's a barrier.
Well, the attractiveness is always there.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the nice part.
The approachability factor.
The approachability factor.
Okay, yeah.
Is much like Michelle.
Okay. Yeah, our wife's a little similar here, yeah.
Yeah. There's a bit of a resting... what's the phrase? Like it's a resting Baptist phase. I think that's what we've sour phase.
Determined it to be. Yeah, it looks like they look like they're mad, or
being inconvenienced, or how dare you?
Yeah. Like if a cop pulls over our wives, the cop's gonna think he's in trouble.
Oh yeah,
he's like, wait a minute,
what's the ticket for me for?
Are you pulling me over?
What's this reverse card?
Yeah. Uno.
And he got away. You got away.
Yeah, man. It got away. And you're sitting there. And I said, thank you for your kindness. That's what I said.
And I guarantee you didn't have your seatbelt on.
Nope.
And I bet you your phone was in your hand.
Well, listen, it doesn't. I don't remember all the details.
See, there you go. That's why you didn't look in the back, because you're on your phone. You are horrible. You are horrible.
I was on my phone at a traffic light. I wasn't driving.
Joey, I honestly,
okay,
you have a problem.
Okay,
you have an addiction problem with your phone.
If I have a problem,
you can't let it go. If there's a ding, if there's anything, even if there's not a ding, you're like, oh, time to check Instagram.
Okay, first of all,
you have an issue.
I don't check I turn it off. It's off right now. Notifications are off. I'm fully present here.
You know what? Just put it over there. Put your phone in your bag.
Well, there could be an emergency.
See, I knew it.
Emergency.
There's never an emergency.
There's frequently an emergency.
Frequently? What are you talking about? Frequently? Yeah. What's the emergency?
Well, I mean, I've had so this week I had to take one of the kids to emergency ER, the emergency urgent care. Mm-hmm.
So let's get this straight. Mm-hmm. Once every
in the last
8 months?
No, in the last few days.
No, but that's
like once a week. That's averaged out to once a week. It happened this week.
When's the last time that happened?
A week ago. This week.
When's the last time that happened previous to that?
Oh, urgent care? This month. Twice. You feel stupid now.
No, I don't feel stupid. I don't feel stupid.
Yeah.
You guys are just cursed.
Yeah, well, I'm not the one going in, so I feel okay.
But you're paying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am. Mm-hmm. And I have to go in. So it'll be for this month, because I will have to go in this weekend.
Why?
It doesn't matter.
What are you going in for?
It's whatever.
No, for real.
I got a thing.
Is it your infection?
It's not an infection.
It's your infection, isn't it?
It's a reaction.
It's your infection.
It's a rash.
Let me see.
It's a rash. It's not an infection.
It's your infection.
What are you pointing to?
You know what I'm pointing to.
No, where?
You know where.
Okay, arm, leg.
I'm thinking more like...
No, it's leg. I have that rash on my leg.
Oh.
Every once in a while it comes back. And the doctor's like, yeah, it's a rash. It's not contagious. You're just having an allergic reaction to something. I go, why on this part of my leg right there and not anywhere else? They're like, I don't know.
Science.
So, and are you doing anything different? I'm like, no.
Well, you are wearing short pants.
Okay. Shut up.
You are what?
Okay. I know Jennifer Mon called me, took a picture of me coming out of the church. Jeez.
And here, hold on. I'm going to take a photo. Right
sabbatical short pants.
Got it.
Sabbatical short pants. I only wear them on sabbatical. They won't be, I'm not wearing them any other time. Yeah. My legs are all white and they're all like bruised.
They're pretty disgusting.
And they're like, I got a cut now on my shin. I don't know how I got that. The older you get, your skin gets paper thin, like mummy skin. That's what happens.
Oh, well, you're getting there.
Okay.
You're getting there. Well, congratulations on escaping, citations.
Yeah. That's what I do. I'm like Houdini.
Man. Yeah. See, look, you couldn't even put your phone down.
Yeah, because I got a notification. I thought it was important.
No, it wasn't. It was Gmail.
Yeah, it could have been an important Gmail.
You're so. I told you. You're proving,
it's over here. I won't touch it. I won't touch it for the rest of our time together.
You're proving my point.
No, I'm not proving your point.
Yes, you are.
I'm proving my point now. I won't touch it.
No, especially because I know you could have put it there.
Yeah.
Because if you got a text or anything important, it pops up on your thing, on your computer.
So it wouldn't make a difference. I put it over there. I can still deal with it all right here.
Exactly. But the fact is, an email, social media.
I don't get any social media notifications. So,
anyways.
Addicted. Why don't we answer an email?
Sure. Let's see.
We got an email. We get a lot of emails. We can't get to them all, but this was a nice short one that I think is super relevant.
Yep, Jeff. Bringing up ideas for change with the pastor.
Oh
I was wondering, what's a good way to broach the topic? Hold on, I'm trying.
Excuse me. It doesn't begin there.
Excuse me. I'm
it
reading.
begins earlier than that. You're skipping over an important part of the email.
It's not an important part.
Okay.
I was wondering what's a good way to broach the topic of change with the pastor. There are some things I'd like to see implemented in worship based on some convictions I have. But I'm not. I'm sorry. It's my first time reading this.
Jeff, Jimmy ain't happy. Jimmy's like, oh no. Jimmy's eye rolling hard right now.
Based on some convictions I have, but I'm not sure how to bring that up in a sensitive way that also gets across my strong feelings about it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sensitive way. That's good.
I'm good. Yeah.
All right, Jeff, nobody likes you.
What? No one said that.
No. I'm telling him.
Why are you telling him?
Because, Jeff, you're the guy. You're the squeaky wheel. You're the guy.
You're the one that we got to oil up.
No, Jeff, we totally feel you. And I think I will speak for Jimmy and assume that he's been in a situation where it's like, hey, something's off here at the church. We need to see change. And now how do I go about addressing this issue?
Oh, yeah.
So we've been there. You're sensing that there's something going on in corporate worship where you have some convictions. And I've been on the receiving end of concerns and complaints and criticisms, and as well as I've offered them.
Yeah.
Though my offering of, I've generally been less vocal with personal preferences, but we'll get into it, right? Because I don't think it's a super simple way of. I don't think there's a super simple way of answering this email.
No,
Jeff, because it's and I'm assuming the best here, right? We're going to assume.
Let's assume it's legit.
Yeah, there's an issue in corporate worship at your church that we would all agree, like, yeah, that's not the best. We ought to make some tweaks there. Now, how do you approach this with your church?
Yes, I am willing to look at it that way.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
Even though you're probably just not happy because they're not singing your favorite Third Day song.
Third Day.
That was a reach.
That was a reach.
I would say one of the first things that's really important to do before you even get to this point is to have a relationship with your elders or your pastors. Because if you're the guy or you're the girl that reaches out to the pastors when there's a problem,
when there's a problem,
and that's the only time you're doing it, you are a burden. You are not a blessing. And I'm not saying this is you, Jeff. I'm just saying, if you got to ask yourself, hey, before I reach out to my pastor to express a concern, when was the last time? What are the last few times I've reached to him out? What was it about?
Yeah. Did I reach out just to see about coffee? Did I reach out to say, hey, appreciated the sermon?
Yeah, good stuff,
Did I reach out to say, hey, I'm thankful for the people here at the church?
To say that you're praying for him or to ask him to pray for you?
Yeah.
I mean,
or to ask, how can I be praying for you?
Yeah. I mean, this is important. You should have a relationship with your pastor. Now, not every church member is going to have a super close, hanging out 3 days a week relationship with their pastor.
Or it depends on the size of the church. Maybe, okay, fine. Maybe you don't have that with the lead pastor, but maybe you've got some sort of relationship with someone in leadership, because that means a lot.
Yeah, pastoral staff, those elders are going to be communicating together. And if they get a message from somebody saying, hey, I'd like to talk, I got a concern, whenever we're worshiping on the screen, you throw up a picture of Jesus taken from the Passion of the Christ, and I want to talk about that because I don't think that's helpful. If the elders are like, hey, who's this guy?
Who is this?
And they all are like, I don't know.
Yeah. Then
all right, well, there's a little bit of hesitation there,
and it gets filed in the special bin.
Circular file,
the circular bin, yeah.
the round file. And if they go, oh, it's the same guy every time, he only reaches out when he's got a complaint. But if there's an elder on that staff, go, no, I know this guy, solid member. He's active in these parts of the church. We've got a relationship.
Loves the church.
With him, then it's going to go better. So just make sure that you are in a good rhythm of communication with your pastor or your pastors, your elders, your leadership team, however you want to do it. Because you want, if you have a legit concern, you want it to be at least taken seriously. And it's going to be easier for them to take you seriously if you're not just a complainer about everything. And that's how you might be perceived if that's the only time you ever talk to them.
Yeah, the first line of communication shouldn't be a complaint. It's rare. It's a rare time that a church is doing something so egregious that the first thing out of your mouth is a complaint.
Yeah. Like, okay. Because, I would assume you wouldn't be there if they weren't also doing a lot of things well.
Yeah.
Like, why else would you be there?
Yep.
I wouldn't be there.
No.
Well, the preaching of the word is good, or the corporate worship is good, the small groups, Sunday school, whatever. All right. So that's just sort of like preface, right? Your question is, how do I bring up this conviction that you have about how things are being done, that where you're sensitive, you want to be sensitive about it. So that we like hearing that. But also you get across your strong feelings about it. And I would just say this in the front end. Nobody cares about your strong feelings. Your strong feelings about the matter are completely irrelevant. What is relevant are, is this biblical? Is this helpful? Is this practical? How you feel, the degree to which you feel about it is not going to help you. In fact, it can hurt you, because now it can seem like, you have an emotional connection.
Yeah, you got a hobby horse here that you're trying to grind out.
Either you've been burned in some way in the past over this issue, or it is your hobby horse, like you're saying, Jimmy. So like how strong you feel about it isn't really the issue. It's how important this is objectively. That's more the issue. And maybe that's what you're getting at here. But really, I mean, let's start with this. Because you can have really strong convictions. I have really strong convictions about things. Jimmy,
I know.
Jimmy has really strong convictions about things.
Not as much.
And but yeah, I would say we have convictions for which we have equal depth and passion, but I have them about more stupid things. I have a lot more convictions about irrelevant things than you do.
60-40.
Yeah.
I'll go. Okay. Yeah, I'll go with that. Sometimes the things that sometimes we act like things are convictions.
Oh yeah.
When they're just more preferential.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, that sort of gets to what maybe we should continue with this. You're going to have convictions. You're going to have thoughts. When should you not seek change? Just because you don't like something and you would like something to be different doesn't mean that you ought to pursue, let's bring about a change here. So just because you disagree with what a church is doing, or even what a church might believe, doesn't mean you should try and change it. So maybe run through some questions before you start lighting up your pastors.
Yeah, I mean, I would be looking at what I want to talk about. Is this a settled doctrine or practice in the church? Have they already gone through this?
Yeah.
Have they already discussed this? Is this part of who they are?
Yeah.
They've already worked through this. If it is, then why bring it up again?
Yeah. It's like, I go to a church and the confession of faith or the statement of faith is clearly Calvinistic, but I don't like that and I want to change it. Or it's clearly not Calvinistic. I mean, it's not just vague. It's clearly like, no, it denies the doctrine of election. And just because they might be wrong, and I would believe that church is wrong in their view of predestination, doesn't mean that you should go in and try to change the church. They've settled this doctrine for themselves. And so a church can itself decide to move in a particular direction. Yeah, I think that's good. Is this settled in doctrine or practice? And you can ask, like, is this articulated? Right? Has this been written out when you look at the church's confession or even the Constitution? Right? I don't like how we do this. Well, that's okay. That's in the Constitution, and if it's important enough, and you need to weigh this yourself first. But if it's important enough, then you can bring it to the church if there are mechanisms by which you can do that. But I think some people would hear us saying like, well, okay, is this already settled? Has the church already decided? And some people are going to say like, no, that's not the question. The question you should be asking, is it biblical? And if they're unbiblical, then you should go ahead and deal with it. Doesn't matter whether they've settled it or not. What do you say to that?
Well, if it was unbiblical, why were you there to begin with?
Maybe they just started doing it.
But hold on though. Then that goes against what we said. Is this a settled
Right.
doctrine
then,
or practice.
Then it would be like, okay,
It's fair
not
game.
settled. Yep, fair game to bring up, and then how you go about it, of course, is going to be really important. And so, yes, that would then be open because it's not a settled issue. I had a guy who joined our church years and years ago, first church plant, and he was at a church, and by all estimations, like a fairly solid church from what I understood. But one of the things they did was, on Sunday mornings, when they would have the screen up and they would have the lyrics up there, sometimes they would have an image of Jesus taken from, a movie or something like that. And he knows, like, we're not down with that. We would never do that. We don't like that. And not just because, honestly, not at all because we're against any depiction of Jesus. I'm not against any depiction of Jesus in its proper use, but to have a projection or anything like that of Jesus that we're using in worship is confusing at best and certainly problematic. Anyways, this church was doing it. And so he goes to them and he was like, I want to talk to you about this. And so they said, absolutely, let's meet. They talked. And so he laid out his disagreement with it. And all the elders were like, well, listen, this is something that we're comfortable with. We don't believe in your argument here is really weighty enough to move us. And so we're not, we hear you, but we're not going to do it. And so he left the church and went on to somewhere else because it was significant enough. But what was interesting to me was like he was really upset about it. He was really mad, and he couldn't understand, like, they wouldn't see like how wrong it is. And it's like, well, yeah, but this is how it works. I mean, people come to different conclusions as they're reading and studying Scripture. So if at some point that might have been settled at that in that church's mind that this is okay, and it sometimes is going to be worth bringing up. Sometimes it's necessary to bring up, but if it is settled, you're more than likely not going to be helping.
You're not going to move the needle.
You're not going to move it.
You're not going to move it. And so when we're asking these questions of, like, I mean, another question we should be asking, right? If whether or not we should be trying to bring about this change is this a preferential issue? Is this something that you're just, it's just something more that you prefer or don't prefer to happen on a Sunday morning, right? And so this is that time to kind of really weigh out, okay, where do I stand on this? Is this really something that is a biblical issue, or is it just more, I don't like that?
Yeah, there are things like, listen, there are things at Redeemer that I can say, like, well, I don't really like that this is how we do something, but it's not anti-biblical. It's a total preference thing, and I'm okay with that. Like, I because I've learned to say, like, well, all right, so this is ultimately good for the church. Even if I would do it differently, if it was just a church for me, like where we put communion. Like if it's just a church for me, I would rather that be after the sermon. Traditionally, that's where it goes. But we intentionally moved it to before the sermon because we want all of the children present who are able to take communion, be able to take communion. And all the children who aren't able to take communion, see communion being received. So that was a choice that we made because it's best for the whole. Even though, like, in an ideal world, well, we wouldn't have to do it that way. But so anyway, I think that's good. Is it preferential or not? To go deeper in the Word, to grow theologically, and to become a better teacher or preacher of the Word, we need good tools and the right library. For those who want to go deep and grow with the best resources, we recommend Logos Bible Software. Logos fuses powerful technology with biblical resources. Access Bibles, search tools, commentaries, seminary-level courses, and even audiobooks right on your phone, tablet, or desktop. Logos offers nearly 200,000 digital books from the world's top publishers. Logos editions have been turbocharged with powerful data that connect them with the rest of your library. So whether you're comparing Bible translations, tackling tough topics, or studying deep theological issues, Logos has you covered. You can go on to digging into the original language resources, even if you don't know Greek or Hebrew. Logos will even help you pronounce the words. Now, listen, we could list all of the scholars that they want us to point to who are using Logos, but honestly, we use Logos Bible Software. I just asked Jimmy the other day, how many days a week do you use Logos? And he said, at least 7. I mean, I use them every day of the week, multiple times a day, and so do I. I use it for sermon prep. I use it for research. I use it for writing new books that I'm working on and personal devotions. Now, you can get started with Logos today for under $50. Go to logos.com/Jofo. For under $50, you can get started today. Hit up logos.com/JOFO. But Jimmy, what if you're actually you got a concern and you're in the church and you're like, okay, my conscience is bothered by this. It's not necessarily unbiblical. It's preferential, or it's been articulated in the scripture. Does that mean like I should just keep my head down and not say anything? Should they avoid the elders on it, or is there a way in which they can like at least talk to the elders about it? Is there a healthy way to at least approach the issue, even if you recognize the church is not going to change, and I know that I shouldn't try to change the church over this?
I think it's okay to voice those opinions, right? Like in a way that like you just said, that's healthy and appropriate, right? So whether that is one-on-one, one-on-one with someone in leadership, just in the course of just hanging out, or in the, maybe you do get together for coffee.
Yeah.
And, just say, hey, can you help me understand this practice? I'm how do you word it? I'm trying to think of like in the midst of that conversation, I think the way I would word it is like, there's nothing wrong with it. Can you help me understand it though a bit better? Because I'm struggling with it, but I'm trying to figure out, why do I struggle with this?
I think that's good. I mean, the whole idea of just seeking understanding, unless you're just lying, because some people will use it. Oh, I'm just trying to get a better understanding. So then you can attack. But if you really are if you go into it saying like, hey, listen, I don't think we're going to agree on this, but I want to understand how you landed here.
Yeah.
I want to understand better, like why we do what we do. And I'm not going to cause any division about it. Like I'm able to deal with it, but I want to have a better.
Yeah.
So if you can communicate like, hey, listen, I love the church. I'm for the church. This is not a deal breaker for me, but I want to understand. That's great. If this is a deal breaker for you, well, then that's something that you need to be upfront about as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And be ready to for them to say, okay, well, sorry, because the church doesn't revolve around you.
No, yeah.
It revolves around the truth of God and the gospel, and their conviction about how that ultimately works. All right, so if we're saying, okay, there are some, just because you have a disagreement doesn't mean you should seek to change things or seek to see things change. But sometimes it is good to pursue change.
Well, yeah, especially if like you could tell or see that the church is drifting from its core beliefs, its core practices. If it's drifting from their confession of faith or their constitution.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, drift, because I know everybody likes to talk slippery slope and drift. Everybody's always like talking about it, and they talk about it so much. It's like, okay, it's not even.
It's starting to like not mean anything anymore.
Because you're crying wolf
for everything.
Yeah, it's like, I don't believe you because I can see that this isn't true. But sometimes churches do drift. We do get into trouble, and things do come up. And then you just listen. If a church has been around long enough, things change, and sometimes they're sort of accidental. Maybe that's the right word. They just kind of happen. It wasn't thought out or planned. Things just kind of fell into place in a certain way. But it is a move away. It can be a move away from established doctrine or practices. And that's probably the big, the big qualifiers, I guess, that I'm looking for is if I'm in a church, like, okay, are we doing something wrong? Because I guess there are two ways I think about this. One is, hey, this is not about us. The church is not sinning. It's not that the church is in error, but I think there's a better way for us to approach this. If you have ideas and suggestions, that's wonderful. You should bring those to your church.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're very open to that. Like if somebody says, hey, listen, I love what we're doing with kids ministry, or I love what we're doing with our small groups or worship, but I think this might be a better way to implement what we're trying to accomplish. Right? I think that's really good. So there you're pursuing change, but it's more about development and maturing and things like that. So I think that there are some things that aren't a drift issue as much as it's a practical sort of how-to issue, pragmatics. And then there are some like more, I guess, critical aspects of things that we would talk about in terms of drift. And so maybe you look at it in terms of when the church leadership is adopting new practices right? New practices. You got to find out, like, you got to determine, okay, so that's going to happen. There are going to be new practices that are implemented. Are they violating biblical principles or not? If they aren't violating biblical principles, you need to chill.
Yeah.
You still investigate, still figure things out, but you need to chill. Like, you can calm down. It's not violating biblical principles. So breathe. Now investigate. Are these new practices best practices, to use like the kind of the worldly jargon? Are these going to be effective? And I know you're one of those guys, Jimmy, that is, I think, really good at establishing. First, we want to make sure that we're biblically solid, functional, and then when we're talking about practices, not doctrines, but practices, which ones are more effective?
Yeah.
So they're biblically good to go. Are these going to be fruitful, effective to the degree that we have any control over that? So if you're in that situation and you see that there is a better way to do something, how do you approach that? Like, how do you lead into that with leadership without saying like, oh, what you're doing here doesn't work, it's a total mess and I'm going to fix it?
No, I mean, I think I have sort of kind of look and say, is what we're currently doing fulfilling our mission and the goals that we set forth with it, right? Mm-hmm. So our mission is to make disciples as disciples. Everything that we do practically leads to that. Like everything needs to be moving towards fulfilling that goal, right?
Yeah, that's good.
But then for each ministry has an objective and a goal that's leading to the mission of the church, right?
Right.
So with whatever we're doing, I want to know, practically speaking, are we accomplishing that goal? If we're not, or even if we are, but not as efficiently as we can be, then I start to ask, okay, do we have any ideas of how we can shake this up? Because we all want to reach this.
Yeah.
This is what we're going for. Now let's work together to figure out, hey, are there other practices that we can implement that are going to help us achieve that better?
Yeah, and I want us to get into that, like how to actually kind of pursue change and development in the church. But before we get there, let's just a couple of other things here. Like when you're seeking change, one, okay, so if there's new practices that are being adopted that are violating biblical principles, or maybe just aren't very effective, when the church is in need of reformation or revival, if we're spiritually cold. And so listen, if the church is spiritually cold, that's usually evidenced by absences and activities, right? So at the absence of evangelism, the absence of joy in corporate worship, spiritual disciplines, whatever.
Absence of fellowship and community.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So like you can think of a lot of things, or the activity of gossip, backbiting, complaining. So, but if the church is in need, then okay, there's another reason to seek change. But sometimes, Jimmy, it's not like even a big deal. Like ultimately, it's like, okay, so we're, we had a guy recently that was attending for a bit, and I think they're out. They loved everything about the church, but the fact that we will on occasion sing a song from Bethel that is theologically fine, but he just can't get past the Bethel part of it. And of course, we had some listeners who were like really like tripping over this. Like, can't believe you'd have a Bethel song, despite our explanation of why. Now, in the grand scheme of things, like we sing a song by a group, and I don't think that that's a huge issue. But like maybe it's something like that, and maybe that's what this brother was getting at. Maybe it's just something needs to be corrected that has come up in the church's life, and it's not a heresy issue. It's not. It's just like you were talking about, like a better and more efficient ways to function, just healthier ways to relate. I guess the point is like there are going to be multiple different reasons why we would seek change in a church. Yeah. If we can get past like, okay, this is not just a mere preferential issue. We're not trying to take the church away from its established confessional heritage or whatever. So I think the real question is, and this is what this guy was getting at, like, how do we actually pursue it? How do we seek to bring about change in the church when we see a problem?
I mean, I always think asking questions is the best way to go about it, because when you're asking questions, I think it should convey, because you want to see this, like you want to seek understanding. You want to understand why the practice is happening, right?
Yeah.
You want to understand the rationale behind it. And so the only way to figure that out is to ask questions. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume the worst about them. And even in that case, don't give them a pass, right? Like you want to seek a better understanding for why these things are going about. And in the midst of that, I think you have this posture of humility.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
There's a humbleness in when you're seeking questions and you're trying to understand. And I think it just naturally humbles you because you're no longer... You come at a posture of learning rather than attacking.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You want to come curious.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I like this idea of like, no, I want to have a better understanding because your concern might be justified, might not be. You know what I mean? It's easy to draw a conclusion from 100 yards away.
Yeah.
When you get up, 5 yards away, and you're like, oh, I didn't see what I thought I saw. And now I have a better picture of this. I'm going to, maybe I'll change my tune. But either way, if you come asking questions like you're saying, you're going to be better able to articulate your concerns if they're legit, because you really do want that. I think asking questions is more helpful than a lot of people might think. I mean, we had people, and we've shared this on the podcast before, but we've had a number of different people over the years, 15 years, who have said it, come to us with just question, and the question leads to change. Like we had a guy saying like, so you guys this is a complementarian church. This was a new couple to our church early on. And we're like, yeah, it's complementarian, and explain why that is. And he's like, so women can't be pastors. And I'm like, no, we don't apologize for that. Here's what we think the scripture says. But we do have women that function as deacons in the church, and this is that. And he said, and so then the couple began to ask me, well, what can women do? And so I started listing all the things women could do. And he said, that's interesting because I don't see women doing any of those things at Redeemer. Good point. Why is that? And he goes, so why do you think that is? And we quickly said, well, that's on us, because if we have these doctrines that establish what is and isn't, and then like, we believe women can read scripture, for example. So why don't any women read scripture? At that time. And so we worked it out. And I know some of you guys might not agree with that, but the point is that a well-phrased question can accomplish more than you think. And it's oftentimes better than an accusation. Yeah. Just ask the question.
Yeah.
See where it goes. I like that. Yeah, asking questions is good. What are some questions that we can be asking though? Like if we got why questions, what questions, like if you see a problem, what are some things that we ought to be prepared to ask? How would you think about?
Well, I've been thinking like, why is leadership, like, why are they implementing this or allowing this, right? Like,
what's their reasoning?
What's the reasoning behind this, right? What's the rationale? What's the goal of it? What are they hoping to achieve, right? So why is this going about the way it's currently going about?
Yeah. Why now? Because these are all legit questions.
Why not doing it this way?
Yeah. It's like I've been on the receiving end of questions like this, and even when my conscience is clear and I'm right, boy, it really helps you to figure out quickly as a leader, have I thought this through? Because now I'm getting questions, and am I able to answer these questions?
Yeah.
And but I'll be honest, it feels really good when you're able to say like, oh, we have thought this through. And I don't mean that arrogantly. I mean, it feels good like, we're not winging it here. Yeah. Like I'm able to answer these questions and hopefully put them at ease because we've spent a lot of time working this out and this is what we've done. But the why stuff is good. Like why? Like what's the value here? Like you said earlier, what's the goal?
And it's not like your kid, right? Like when you're telling your kid to do something and they go, why?
Yeah.
Why? That's not what we're talking about here, right? There is, again, that position of humility and that posture of understanding, that posture of I want to understand what is going on or why this is going on.
Yeah, listen, the genuine curiosity leads to why. It's like I want to know. Like the what is, R.C. Sproul one time said this. He said like I think he said philosophers ask why, scientists ask what. And his point was like, oh, it's like, and I'm sure that's an oversimplification, both of what he said, and I'm sure what he is saying is somewhat an oversimplification. But what led him was not so much the what of the universe, but the why of the universe, what led him into theology. And so people are going to have different issues that they're sort of like leading them, right? And the why questions are very oftentimes very big picture, conceptual, foundational things. And then the what questions are oftentimes a bit more concrete, like a what question would be, and you were getting into this, like what is the rationale or the biblical reasoning that this is happening or isn't happening, right? And then, and again, this is not an accusation. You got to come with this, like, hey, help me to understand, like, when you're in Scripture, like, what supports this? And the answer may be, well, actually, that we use screens instead of hymnals. We don't have a biblical rationale. We don't need to, and here's why.
Yeah.
So again, it's not an attack. It's just a question. Like, so where does the Scripture support this, and how? Because I'm new to this, or I don't understand.
But what about some of those what questions, right? Like you said, the biblical, the rationale, but then also like what are the pros and cons of the church doing this?
Yeah, your leadership should know if they're doing something, they should have thought these things through.
They should have thought.
They should be able to identify them.
Here is the tangible, visible results of it, right? And we should be thinking through what are some of the negative, or what could be a potential negative, I should say, right? Like, how is this going to affect us overall?
Everything has a consequence, right? And pretty much anything that you do that comes to characterize your church is going to be a turnoff for some people. Some people are not going to like that we sing as many songs as we do on a Sunday, or that we preach as long as we do on a Sunday. Some people are not. Some people are going to love those things. So it's like the pros and cons are sometimes just very, very practical, and being aware of them. Like when we decided to move the Lord's Supper to before the sermon, we had to go, okay, what are the pros and cons? And for us, the pros far outweighed the cons because the cons were not weighty enough for us. That there was some weight, like church tradition for centuries has put community. So that's weighty, but that's the only weighty one because there isn't like a scriptural command for it to be there or anything else. It was, other than that, it was more pragmatic. And so we felt like, well, we can violate, right, what is a tradition not established in Scripture, though people would argue it logically makes sense. But I would say that we felt comfortable saying, like, well, we're going to go against what has been a traditional practice of most Protestant churches because we have the freedom to do so. And in doing this, we're able to accomplish a better end that is going to help our kids and our families grow in their understanding of the gospel and of worship and of the Lord's Supper. So pros and cons, that's good. What else should we be asking?
What are the influences that led to this, right? Like, are there other churches or other pastors, maybe other authors in their writings? Like, what has influenced you to go in this direction? Yeah,
because sometimes we'll find out, like, oh, they've been reading Andy Stanley, or they've been reading Mark Dever. Like whatever it is, so to use an example I don't like and an example we do like. So like sometimes, listen, I'll be honest, pastors can get really excited about something
that they read.
They read this, like, oh, this is cool, or they saw it, or they visited, like, we're going to do this, and they didn't put enough thought into it.
They visited and they go, oh, I could move here. I could see myself being a part of this church. We're exactly the same. Everything that they're doing, I would do. Let's do it here.
Listen, I'm not bringing anything except some kindling and gasoline. So I'm bringing. I'm ready to move in. I'm ready to be present. I'm packing light. Just got a lot of flammable stuff.
Yep. But yeah, what are those influences, right?
Yeah, that's good to know. And it's a fair question. Because I'll tell you what, I asked that question, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that puts me at ease. Because I wasn't sure how I was thinking about this. Oh, you're saying these are the guys, I like those guys. So now I have something else to look into. But it also helps to clarify sometimes, like, okay, you're kind of riding this new thing, or you're willing to try this new thing, and that's fine too.
Yeah. And I also feel at ease because sometimes pastors or leadership, they have like, oh, like I got this great idea, and it's never been done before. It has been practiced that way. Well, you know what? I'm not your guinea pig.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure. Maybe there's a reason why. Let's ask. Maybe there's a reason why no one else has done this before.
Yeah.
It's like when you're reading scripture and you have a thought and no other commentator has that same thought.
You're wrong.
Get rid of that thought.
Like, put that away. And here's the thing, like, I think you're going to agree with this. There is a place for a church to try something very different, very new, very challenging. But that only is really going to be a healthy move when you've been praying, communicating, discussing with the congregation.
Yes.
Here's what we're looking at.
Yes.
We're going to try something crazy. We're not ready yet. We're going to get to this point. Get everybody on the same page. Then you go. You don't just come in and start like, oh, hey, everybody, I just changed the name of the church. Sorry, I didn't tell you. It's like, wait, what? You can't just...
We're now Willow River.
Yeah.
We're Oak River.
We're Oaks of Mon.
Oak River Apostleship Baptist Cathedral.
Yeah, it's like
Yellow box.
Can't just do that. All right, some real quick things. Listen, Jeff, if you're going to do this, if you're going to go talk to your pastors, and you're fine and welcome to do that, real quick don'ts, okay? Real quick don'ts. Don't come in hot. Don't do that. Because you come in hot and angry, ain't nobody going to listen, and you don't deserve an audience.
That's right. Don't come in with an ultimatum saying you either change or I go. Well, guess what? Bye, Felicia.
Don't come in as an expert because you're not. You're not an expert.
Nope.
There's a chance that somebody is, but it's probably not you.
Oh, here's the worst one.
Okay.
Don't come in with people are saying.
Yeah, because now it's gossip. Tell me who's saying it, or don't bring it up.
Nope. I refuse to listen after that.
Yeah, I don't like what people are saying. What are you saying?
Yep.
I don't care what you're saying.
I don't care what other people are saying.
Yeah, like if they're
They
not
can
coming
come to me.
Yeah, if they, I welcome them to come to me. But if they ain't coming to me and they just want to like sit around and gossip and complain, I ain't got time for that. You know what I do have time for? What I always have time for is engaging people on social media because I love social media.
Yeah,
it's my favorite. Okay, not
you
really.
can't. You can't stop.
No, I can't. I'm okay. Hey Jimmy, if they do want to try and connect with us on social media, what do they do?
You can follow us online on Instagram, Twitter @DocandDevo, or on Facebook /Doctrine and Devotion. You can head to the website, doctrineanddevotion.com. There you can contact us. You can sign up for the email blast at the store, jofostore.com, and grab some gear. We got that fresh pod every Monday and Thursday. We got blog posts and video content over at the website. And we've got that all-access exclusive content. You got Banter Truth on Tuesdays, Weekday Wisdom Monday through Friday. If you want to sign up, right there on your podcast player, you can hit support this podcast. It'll take you right there to where you can join up, or go to doctrineanddevotion.com /all-access. You on your phone again?
I'm on my phone again. Yeah, I'm clocked out now.
Later.